Have you ever wished you had a little superpower to help you navigate social situations? Or, to finally get that yes you've been looking for? Well, today we're unlocking a whole toolkit of simple, science-backed psychological tricks that you can start using like right now. And listen, this isn't about manipulation. It's really just about understanding people and yourself a whole lot better. So, are you ready to get a little bit of an edge in your daily life? To walk into social situations with more confidence and maybe even get a better handle on your own mind? If the answer is yes, then you are in exactly the right place. Let's dive in. So here's how we're going to break it all down today. We've set this up like a toolkit with three main sections. First, we'll cover the art of persuasion. Then we'll get into navigating those tricky social situations. And finally, we'll talk about how to become the master of your own mind. All right, first up, the art of persuasion. These are all techniques to help you communicate way more effectively, helping you get the outcomes you want, whether you're in a huge negotiation or just making a simple everyday request. Let's kick things off with something super simple but incredibly powerful, just how you make a request. See, when you ask, could you? You're asking a theoretical question. It lets them say yes in theory, but it doesn't really push them to act. But if you switch it up to a direct, polite command like, please invite the neighbors, you're making a clear request that's way more likely to get done. It's a tiny change, but it makes a huge difference. Here's a really subtle but effective one. If you want someone to agree with you, try nodding your head just a little as you're talking or asking the question. It's a nonverbal cue that actually encourages them to agree with you on a subconscious level. You'll see this a lot in the service industry, and trust me, it's surprisingly effective at getting people on board. Okay, this one is kind of fun, and it's basically rooted in reverse psychology. If you want to motivate someone, sometimes playfully challenging their ability is the way to go. Saying something like, I bet you can't finish that report by 5, can light a fire in them. It triggers this powerful desire to prove you wrong, and suddenly they're motivated. So what do you do when you've got to motivate someone who seems, well, lazy? Instead of dropping a huge, overwhelming task on them, break it down. Just hand them the first small piece and say, just start with this. It makes it feel so much more manageable. Once they're done, you come back with, awesome, now continue with this part. Guiding them step by step helps them finish the whole project without that initial panic. All right, here is a fantastic negotiation tactic. Even if you absolutely love the offer on the table, just show a little hint of disappointment. That subtle cue can make the other person think they need to sweeten the deal just a bit more to get you to sign on. It's a simple, powerful trick that can work wonders. If you think someone's holding back or not telling you the whole truth, you have to try this. Ask your question, and then just be quiet. Say nothing. Maintain eye contact, and just let the silence hang in the air. For most people, that awkward silence is so uncomfortable, they'll feel this intense need to fill it, and they'll often reveal exactly what you wanted to know. This is a game changer for anyone who has a job interview coming up. It's all based on something called the primacy and recency effect. Basically, our brains are wired to remember the first and last things in a series the best. So if you can, try to schedule your interview as either the very first one of the day or the absolute last. You will be so much more memorable than all those candidates stuck in the middle. All right, let's switch gears and move into our second section. How to handle those tricky, sometimes really awkward social situations. These next few techniques are all about navigating your interactions with a bit more grace and, a little more control. This one is a classic, and it's called the Benjamin Franklin effect. So if you want a new colleague to like you, don't bend over backwards doing them a favor. Instead, ask them for a small one. Something simple, like asking them to explain something, or even just to borrow a pen. Their brain then has to justify why it helped you, and it basically tells itself, well, I must like this person, otherwise I wouldn't have helped them. It's a weird but amazing way to build a connection. When someone tries to drag you into drama or an argument, one of the most powerful things you can do is just be kind. It totally disarms them. They don't know how to react. Another really effective strategy, stay calm and just say nothing. For someone trying to get a rise out of you, there is nothing more infuriating than being ignored. Here is a brilliant way to point out a mistake without putting someone on the defensive. Instead of saying something accusatory like, you didn't close the window, try using the passive voice. The window was left open. See the difference? It takes the blame off the person and puts the focus on the action. It helps them learn from it without feeling attacked. So if you ever catch someone staring at you and it's making you uncomfortable, Here are a couple of strange but effective tricks to make them stop. You can look intently at their forehead. Most people find that incredibly weird and will look away. Or, for a truly bizarre effect, just stare right at their shoes. Don't break your gaze. I guarantee you it will unnerve them enough to stop. Now, this next one is a real mind game. The source suggests that if you consistently look at someone with a worried expression every time you see them, they'll eventually start to feel anxious whenever you're around. It's a pretty powerful and maybe a little scary demonstration of how our nonverbal cues can directly mess with someone's emotional state. Okay, for our final section, we're going to turn the focus inward. We're flipping the script. These are psychological tricks you can actually use on yourself for motivation, for better memory, and for just managing your own mental state. I know this is going to sound a little weird, but trust me, it actually works. The second your alarm goes off in the morning, instead of hitting snooze, sit straight up in bed, make two fists, and yell yes, like you just scored a game-winning goal. That physical act of celebration can literally trick your brain into feeling energized and ready to tackle the day. Do you ever get that nagging feeling, that little bit of panic? Did I lock the front door? Did I unplug the iron? Well, try this. Every time you do one of those routine tasks, say a completely ridiculous phrase out loud, something like green rabbit or flying turtle. Later, when you start to wonder if you did it, you'll remember saying the crazy phrase and you'll know for sure the task is done. This is such a wild example of the placebo effect in action. Even if you had a terrible night's sleep, try telling yourself that you actually slept great and feel really rested. A study from Colorado College found that people who believed they were well rested performed better on cognitive tests, no matter how poorly they actually slept. Your mind is a powerful thing. If public speaking makes you nervous, here are two super simple hacks that can help. First, always bring a bottle of water up with you. If you lose your train of thought, you can just take a sip. It gives you a natural pause to get back on track. And second, don't be afraid to just admit you're nervous. It makes you seem more human, more relatable, and it actually takes a lot of the pressure off. So there you have it, your brand new psychological toolkit. We've gone over techniques for persuasion, some tricks for handling those awkward social moments, and even a few ways to become the master of your own mind. And really, the big takeaway here is this. You don't need to make massive, earth-shattering changes to see real results. Sometimes it's the smallest little shifts in how you communicate and how you think that can have the biggest and most positive impact on your life. So, I'll leave you with this one question. Which one of these tricks are you going to try out first? Thanks so much for tuning into this explainer, and we'll see you on the next one.